Hi, and welcome, friends, to the Seek Sustainable Japan podcast. This episode is a 2024 Sustainable Japan Short Takes wrap up with me, JJWalsh, and Tove Joy. Both of us are sustainability focused consultants, educators, workshop organizers, and I also do sustainability focused travel consulting and tours here in Hiroshima. Now, here we are catching up on some of our favorites from the year, as well as giving advice about more sustainable shopping. I know we should all try to shop less and be more mindful about maybe buying experiences or other things which are more sustainable. But there's some ideas here which I hope will also be interesting to you, whether you're in Japan or anywhere around the world. Thanks for tuning in. And I would really appreciate, I don't say this enough, I would really appreciate if you would give us 5 stars on your favorite audio player and a little review.
Hi everyone,
if you
and
enjoy
welcome.
this
Good
podcast.
Morning, friends. This is
have a great end of year
of
and
the
tune
year,
in for more in 2025.
Seek Sustainable Japan Short Takes. I'm JJWalsh here in Hiroshima, joined by...
Hi, I'm Tove Joy in Yokohama.
And today we're talking about some of the highlights from 2024, some ideas for Christmas gifts, Christmas holiday shopping, and hopefully you can get some good ideas about where you are, even if you're not in Japan. Tove, how are you feeling about the end of the year going in? There's a lot of crunch, a lot of busyness, right? How are you doing?
Yeah. I think I'm still in denial, actually, that it's the end of the year because it's just, I'm not ready yet. If somebody could please press the pause button. It feels like 2024 has gone ridiculously fast with a lot of stuff going on. But yeah, I'm grateful to be here. And yeah, it's been a good year work-wise. But yes, could just do with a few more hours in the day and days in the week.
Right. And that, yeah, maybe as we head to the end of 2024, finding time for yourself, finding a way to relax, finding a way to learn, have some quiet time. I think that's what we're all striving for. And that connects to one of my things to recommend. It's also kind of a difficult time for a lot of people. So I wanted to also recommend people reach out to Tokyo English Lifeline. It's not just for Tokyo people. Anyone living in Japan can get in touch and talk to trained counselors. It's often the holidays is a really tough time for people, and the end of business year, you've got a lot of stress, right? So thinking about mental health, emotional health as well, very important.
Very much, very much. And it's interesting. I mean, you bring that up. We had the final module last week of a women's leadership program we've been running for a client. And the participants there are actually all based in the US and Europe. So we've been doing it virtually from here. And one of the things we talked about in the final module was sort of prioritizing and finding space for yourself and to decompress, time to process things. There's no time because everything's go, 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 right? There's very little time to process, and our brains really need that downtime. And they were saying, actually, I was quite surprised, their company, the amount of time they get off over the sort of Christmas, New Year break is really short, the official time off. So, by the time you've packed everything in to finish before the end of the year, and you've probably got deadlines and things that need to get done right before there's a few days off, and then it's straight back into it again at the beginning. So I was a bit concerned to hear that the time off was so short. I think companies need to be more aware of the fact that people need a proper break, and that's a good time to do it. Business is generally quiet at that time, or quieter. I think people really need that downtime. It's not sustainable for humans to keep working at that sort of high tension, high capacity for too long. So
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're looking for somewhere to donate that really makes a difference, Tell is a nonprofit.
Yes.
It's a great place to support as well. And you're supporting a wider community, and to give them funds to train more people. They have a long waiting list apparently in Okinawa. So it
Mm.
shows that there is a big demand, right?
Yeah, very much so.
I wanted to talk about some of the highlights from this year as well. So, I was really impressed to see Japan Times with their Sustainable Japan series, which you were featured at, Tova, as well recently. But they did a best of year event, and that's wonderful. As well as I was a part of the Japan Travel Awards. Also, another these kind of events where people have a chance. Not, I mean, I don't know how you feel about competing, right? But the
Mm.
chance to highlight the good
Yeah.
work of some businesses and how they're standing out from the crowd,
Mm.
standing up better, somewhere to aim for, a
Yeah.
little bit more sustainable. Like everybody's, like, oh, sustainability is too hard. So when you have these kind of contests or events where you're highlighting those
Mm.
businesses which are making the hard choices,
Yeah.
doing sustainable strategy, it does make a difference, right?
Yeah. No, I think that's really good to give them a chance to be visible, right, and to be recognized for the effort and the work that they're putting in. So no, it's really good to see.
Yeah. And
Mm.
another big event this year was the Fabric event. Fabric, we've talked about before. They just became a B Corp company, which is wonderful to see. But they had a wonderful event when they published their latest research report about regenerative businesses. And
Mm.
they had wonderful workshops from some of those business people, leaders in the industry. And it was just such a great event to spark new ideas for people
Yeah,
thinking about the next step, right?
absolutely. Yeah, they're really raising the bar, I think, here in Tokyo. So it's keep up the good work, Fabric.
Fantastic. Now you had an event about gender equity for BCCJ. Can you tell us
Yes.
about this?
Yeah, thank you. So this is something that the lady on the right there, Tatiana Gerling, she and I have been plotting this for about a year now, trying to get this off the ground, and we finally managed to find a place to host it. The London Stock Exchange Group very kindly hosted it at their beautiful space in Tokyo. We had some brilliant panelists. So Alexi Rocamora, who's head of sustainable investment and finance for the APAC region for London's LSEG, London Stock Exchange Group. Mari Kogiso, who is one of the co-founders of SDG Impact Japan, so impact investing, and also Aya Tsumura, who is board member executive at SMBC Trust Bank, with responsibility for both D&I and also sustainability. So it was great because we got really different perspectives on the sort of state of investment in gender sort of based initiatives, or just sort of where is the money going? How is it supporting or not women and the gender equality sort of situation in Japan? It was really interesting to get their insights. Like Mari was talking about from a sort of VC thing, they only see about around, I think it was 8 or 10% of startup founders in Japan currently that they're seeing are female, but only something like 0.2 of the funding goes to them. 0.2% of the funding goes to women-led startups, which was pretty shocking. So it's like, come on, and she was talking about the fact that in the startup ecosystem, it's still very much kind of boys club mentality. Also, it sort of values going all out, working all hours, just putting your everything into it, which means if you're trying to balance that with a family or anything else, it makes it extremely difficult. We talked about the need for sort of more investment in sort of childcare infrastructure, also opportunities for women. Sort of sometimes transfers are not as easy if you've got sort of kids in school and things like this. So it was really interesting looking at that, but also encouraging. We're hearing from LSEG that the clients that they're talking to now are a lot more aware of the need to sort of be conscious of where their money's going and are actually asking good questions now. And 2X Global, that Tatiana is the Japan ambassador for, have developed criteria, gender lens sort of investment criteria that any company can use to benchmark, okay, when we're making an investment, what are the questions we need to be asking? And it's around climate stuff, but also around gender stuff. So really, really important questions. And they also have certification launched now so that people can go and properly learn how to use these in their investments. So yeah, really interesting discussion there.
It's so important, isn't it? It's, when you start looking into sustainable strategies and examples, it's always a people, planet, in balance with profits, balance that you're trying to look for. It's not just the environment. It's not just having sustainable strategies for making money. It is, you've got to think about the people component. So connected to making a successful business, right?
Exactly. This is all so interconnected.
And then that's a big theme for the Japan Travel Awards that I mentioned. That's a big theme for the Sustainable Japan Times Awards, right? Like you are starting to see more and more of this focus on the balance, people and planet, as well as profit. So really, really nice to see. Because for a long time, weren't we just focused on eco or...
So the carbon tunnel vision, as we talk about, people say, okay, just look at the emissions, work on those. And it's like, but all these other things are also connected and equally.
Of course. And we talk a lot about also the influence from abroad, right? And how things come from abroad, even visitors coming from abroad, their perspectives are different because they're expecting more sustainable business strategies or sustainable products, right? Now, one thing I wanted to introduce was Hiroko Yoda, who's an amazing writer. I've had her on the show with Matt Alt, her partner, and she is doing a fantastic blog about Japan happiness. And she just has great articles there. I would suggest everyone to sign up to her newsletter. She's going to be on the show next year. I'm really excited because she's launching her next book. She often writes for the New York Times. She's got great insights. And one of the articles on that page there, which I'll link to, is about woke. What does woke mean? In Japan, right? How do we import this idea of woke, and is it good or bad in how the Japanese audience is thinking about it? So that, one of her many great insight articles.
Brilliant. Oh, that reminds me of, sort of how do the words sort of, or the concepts translate across cultures, right? So last weekend at Yokohama International School, one of your previous guests, Tiffany Rossdale, came and did a screening of the first episode of the We Exist documentary. And we had a bunch of people there, students and teachers and other staff from Yokohama International School, but also from other international schools came and joined as well. So it was a really good crowd, and we watched the documentary and then sort of did discussion, Q&A, breakouts, and talking to Tiffany to get her insights as well, which was really, really interesting. And we were looking at the concept of pride. And actually, in the LGBTQ community, this obviously pride is a global thing now, and a lot of cities have their pride festivals and things like that. And when we were talking about it, one of the Japanese ladies I was speaking to in the breakout session said, it's interesting because that sense, sort of pride, doesn't translate in a particularly positive way in Japanese, because it's seen as sort of arrogance and perhaps sort of
it's often referred to as negative, right?
Right, exactly.
With pride.
Yeah. So the sort of the concept in English is that pride is the opposite of shame, and therefore we're moving from shame to having pride in your identity and who you are. But in Japanese, the opposite of shame is not pride. And she was, and the other Japanese in the room was saying, well, what should we be using then? And if we're using this word pride as a sort of foreign import, is that sort of perhaps putting people off because it's like, oh, it's too showy and too flamboyant, and that's not seen as a positive attribute in Japan. It was a really interesting insight.
Wow, that is interesting. What did she mention? What would be the opposite of shame?
Still looking for that. So,
Think of it in Japanese, right? What
right.
the opposite? But these discussions are so important. It's like the whole concept of localization for businesses who are coming in, but also the terms that are coming in.
Yes.
How do we localize and make these terms have meaning? Like even with sustainability, when I do consulting, how many times do you say sustainable, but they don't really get it because they're only thinking eco, or they're only thinking of a very narrow view of it. And so to explain the people, planet, profit, and balance idea, how it connects back to Edo and the ideas of reusing everything, not wasting it, like trying to connect it to things they know well in Japanese culture, right?
Exactly. So I mean, often the word, you can either use the katakana, right, sustainability, or the jizoku kanose. But again, that a lot of people don't really know what that means unless you're in that field. That wouldn't necessarily have meaning. And so, we've had some interesting discussions around that. And the other day, a question came up, I think on the panel discussion at BCCJ, when we were talking about how do we shift people's mindsets around these and get them to sort of really want to be part of sustainability initiatives. And we were looking at, so maybe connecting back, like you said, to traditional things. So we talked about Sampo Yoshi and the sort of the idea of sort of doing good for the community, for the business, and for the environment. And then people sort of went, so that's something that we've already got and it's inside. It's not a foreign import concept. It's in there, but we just need to be conscious of how we're talking about it and how we're messaging it.
Absolutely. And talking about it with such appreciation, right? Like, isn't it fantastic how you're reusing this beautiful kimono into bags? How amazing, high value. Like you're showing an appreciation for the traditional craft, which is also more sustainable and very in high demand for visitors and people who see that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Sort of rediscovering that pride, for want of a better word, but
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, one of the top things I was going to say, if you're looking for gifts from Japan or in Japan, have a look for craft salt. Have a look for your local soy sauce maker. Craft soaps are a big deal. Now, in Japan, when you move into a neighborhood, you are always going to give your neighbors, in a traditional neighborhood, you're going to give your neighbors something useful. Now, usually it's towels or soap or laundry detergent or salt, right? Something that everybody can use. And I think having that concept for when you're buying gifts for Christmas, something people can use for a long time, if it's a high value product like pottery, something they can, if they don't like it, it can go to a reuse shop and somebody else can buy it, or they can pass it on to someone, right? Regifting is a great sustainable product idea, right?
Yes, very much. Yeah.
Also things that can be fixed, right? Like if you're thinking about buying a toy, well, what happens at the end of life when my kid's not interested? What if it breaks? What happens to it? Right? Can it go in the reuse recycling systems that we have? If not, maybe choose something else, right? Like thinking about the end of product of the things you're buying, I think is a key thing we often miss, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, I wish that would be sort of much more in everybody's mind as they're going through these seasons and buying gifts and things, but what happens afterwards, right?
Absolutely.
Can it be recycled? Will it be recycled actually? even if it's technically possible, is it going to be so complicated and difficult that it probably won't be? But
I always, I say to beautiful craftspeople who are making amazing high quality products, but then when they sell it, they wrap it in a layer of plastic, and then having that conversation of why wrap it in plastic? Like the plastic immediately has to go in the waste system. It immediately becomes a problem. But your product is something we want to use for many years and pass it on. Like can we think of something that's biodegradable, like paper, reusing newspaper
Yeah.
as a wrapping, which I think is cool, with
Yeah.
string. What is that song? Brown paper packages tied up with string. These
Yes.
are a few of my favorite things, right? Come
Yeah.
on. Let's
Exactly.
get back to
Nobody
that.
cares about the wrapping, it's what's inside, right? So
Absolutely. Now, you found some great products, recycled wool. Where did you find
yeah.
this?
So this I found in a very ordinary looking shop in Yokohama, well, Minato Mirai, the kind of trendy port area of Yokohama. I've been looking for ages for a sort of a thick winter coat. Mine was absolutely dead. So I'd been looking in the secondhand shops and couldn't find anything. It's not easy finding things my size in Japan. My arms are not quite as slim as most Japanese ladies. And eventually found this one, and I thought, okay, well, that looks nice. And I opened it up and saw that label and the fact it's made in Japan from 100% recycled wool. And I was like, yeah, that's my decision made. That's fantastic. So really good to see that just in a mainstream store in Japan. Very, very.
It's so good. It's so good. And when I do guide training or I do tours in the city myself, we always pop into Patagonia. And
Yes.
point out, look, it's one of the only stores you will ever see where you can refill your own water bottle with clean, free water. You can fix your products here. How many stores in Japan can we fix products? Well, not many, but isn't it a great idea, like to take people into more sustainable shops as a part of tourism is also really interesting,
Yes, yeah, and there's some good stuff going on in little pockets, and I think if we can highlight those things and help people see what's possible, then that hopefully starts a positive trend.
And I know that the founder of Patagonia, I think it was 2022, he said, the earth is my biggest stakeholder. And really shifted the whole concept of how they do business. So if you're looking for sustainable products, especially outdoor wear, definitely pop into Patagonia. And I love the fact that they're reselling used items too.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
No, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And I've taken back stuff there to get repaired before. It's such a good service. I wish every shop did that.
Now, speaking of artisan, locally made products, you also found some beautiful Okayama jeans.
Yeah, and again, these are in my local Aeon store, and Aeon actually is a very large retailer in Japan, sort of supermarket and other goods as well, home goods, and they're trying pretty hard on sustainability. They've been sort of a stakeholder in some projects that we've worked with clients before. So we've had a sort of a bit of an insight into what they're trying to do. And in a lot of their shops, I noticed yesterday when I went to do my grocery shop, they had sustainable coffee, 4 different types, all sort of certified, tracked, fair trade, etc., as it should be. They're offering a lot more fruit and veg now without plastic packaging, which is wonderful. And I needed a decent sort of smartish, warmish pair of jeans, and these were their sort of winter warm ones. And as you can see, they've got this sort of concept of sort of end to end, cradle to cradle. So taking the yarn, recycling it, the muda zero concept, from clothes to clothes is that sort of concept there.
That's so good.
Which is really encouraging to see. And that was just sort of in an ordinary shop, nothing special. I didn't need to go anywhere special for that. Very reasonably priced. So really, yeah. And they're nice and warm.
Yeah, which is wonderful, right? And jeans, the denim industry, you'll find, and it's really unique that it's still made in Japan. Some of the best jeans are made in Japan. People don't realize in my area, Hiroshima, Okayama.
Right.
A lot of the highest quality jeans, they're also using natural indigo. Indigo, aizome, is a wonderful, sustainable, regenerative crop because you can grow it without pesticides. When you harvest it, process it into the dye, it's non-toxic. So a lot of people are doing that as workshops because it's not damaging for the workers. So you can get tourists to do it too. And then it can go right back into the environment because it doesn't have anything damaging in it. I mean, how many sustainable circular things do we have in Japan like that, right?
Not enough. Not enough.
And then after you finish with your jeans or grow out of them,
Yep.
as a lot of kids do, it's a really high demand product in the second-hand shop system.
Yeah.
They really want to resell those jeans. People cut it up and make it into bags. A lot of
Yeah.
second use in that way as well, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah. I've actually seen pop-ups in, I think it's Takashimaya department store, one of the sort of very high-end department stores in Tokyo, Shinjuku. Last time I went there, had a pop-up denim store, but everything was made from recycled denim, sort of bags and sort of vests and things. So really interesting to see that sort of innovation being showcased in somewhere as sort of top end as that. So really good.
That's awesome. And one of the interesting things I've discovered when I've been out to these indigo farms, and indigo is fermented. You don't think of it as fermented, but when they make the dye that they use for the clothes, it's a fermented dye. And so a lot of indigo dye shops have collaborations with, oh, sorry, that was the wrong one, with sake making. With
interesting.
miso making, because
Yeah.
it's one of the HAKKO, it's one of the fermented foods, right?
Yeah.
So if you go and explore in your area, try to check out your local HAKKO, your local fermented things that you have in your area. They're in pockets all over Japan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we just had some exciting news, right? That sake is
Yes.
now added to UNESCO. So we're getting a boom for the sake industry at last. There are a lot of sake breweries which are really struggling. But promoting sake is such an important part of the culture because it connects to rice growing. It connects to so many connected industries. People who make the washi paper for the labels. People who make the bottles. A lot of the sake shops still reuse the big size bottles. They wash them and reuse them, not just recycle them.
Yeah.
So there's so much connected with culture and sustainability and people with the sake industry. So I was so happy to see that happen this year.
Yeah. Brilliant. No, that's a big step forwards.
Now you went to an interesting event, Venture Cafe. Tell us about this.
So Venture Cafe has been running in Tokyo and a few other big cities for a few years now. And it's sort of in Tokyo, it's a weekly event. People can go along. You get sort of startups pitching their ideas, or even individuals with an interesting idea they want to pitch. A lot of it's tech focused, but also a lot of it focused on solving the big issues that we're dealing with around sustainability. And they recently launched a branch in Yokohama called Yokohama Connect, which is hosted at Yokohama Tech Hub, right in the corner of the Landmark Tower, so very central. And their events are currently every other week. And this, the one in the picture there, Takenaka, was a really interesting company. So they're a construction company with a big focus on sustainability, actually. Good to see. But they've created these mobile units, like the one you can see parked there. And they gave me a brochure with sort of more info and stuff in. And you can see the top of it here is, it's got solar power. So it's completely self-contained. You can go and use this off grid. And the idea is that you can use it post-disaster, where you need a sort of a hub. You need electricity for running sort of coordinating efforts to sort things out. It's also possible to sort of use it because it can be moved anywhere. It's sort of a trailer form. You can have it in places that are hard to reach and don't have the infrastructure. So you can sort of give them that connection there. So they've used them in the Noto Peninsula, where in January this year there was a big earthquake and there's still a lot of ongoing reconstruction issues. So they've got some units up there sort of supporting people locally. Really great idea to see, and such a simple thing to do. But great to see that happening, and a construction company taking a sort of a innovative view to how they can help revitalize areas.
That's awesome. I just had a quick search. I couldn't find a link, but if we have a link for Takenaka and the campers, we'll put that below.
Yeah.
You've got an interesting event upcoming. Tell us about it.
So the Art of Powerful Questions. So this is on the 21st of January in Tokyo. It's a one-day workshop. So Torka Paludan-Moller from Denmark, Mary Alice Arthur, who's originally from the States, but sort of has lived all over. They, Torka is one of the co-founders of something called the Art of Hosting and the Flow Game, which is sort of a methodology around asking deep questions to get to the root causes of issues and uncover sort of what's really going on. He's used it around the world with governments in the EU, with NPOs, with companies and things. So, and particularly focused on sort of uncovering purpose and thinking about really sort of what is the work that I need to be doing or want to be doing? What is the value that I'm bringing? And he said, so there's a tendency with people to jump to try and to ask a quick question, not think too deeply, and then go off down a rabbit hole, perhaps trying to find the answers to the wrong question and spending a lot of time and energy on that. Whereas if we dig deep and spend time asking the right question or finding the right question first, really understanding what is it that we want to be focusing on, then we can really solve the big problems that need to be done. So we've got a one-day workshop on that. It's open to anyone. If you want to come and join, please do. It should be a really interesting session.
Oh, that's awesome. That whole idea of mindfulness, I think, is so important as we're so busy and out frantically buying gifts for people. But to keep that perspective, right? To try to think beyond just this thing, beyond just this busyness. Like, take time for yourself. Like, really try to savor your life as well. If you can, take a moment, right?
Yeah, very much, very much. Brilliant. Brilliant.
Well, that's our time, Tove. Thank you so much once again.
You're welcome. Thank you.
It's always great to talk with you, and I hope we will have many more conversations in 2025.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to it.
Thanks, everyone, for joining. Have a great end of year. Take care. And of course, as always, we would love to have your comments and questions. If you have some favorites that happened this year connected to sustainability, we would love to hear it, especially if it's connected to Japan, but really anywhere. We'd love to hear those too, right?
Absolutely. Inspiration can come from anywhere, so please share.
Fantastic. We are all one world, like that event you're often part of, right?
Yep. That's coming up again next year, every year.
Okay, great. All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care. See you next time.
You.
Bye.
Bye.